When we think of the great outdoors in Minnesota, we often think of the wilderness, roughing it, or being one with nature. On today's adventure, we're going to do some great activities closer to civilization that are incredibly family friendly. Let's go, Minnesota!
Funding for this program is provided in part by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.
Do I need to remember they want these all tight?
It will be better. Yeah.
Where's your... Where? Oh.
What a nice day for this, huh?
Yeah,
we were
beautiful.
worried all week.
Well, it's been, you can't trust any weather forecast even in the morning.
Oh, wow, there's the bridge right there.
We don't have much time before we hit the rapids.
We're gonna test it out for everyone. Watch us look. Woohoo! Oh yeah.
So which bridge is that?
That's the Roosevelt Bridge. It's a stone arch bridge built in 1934. So it was one of the President Roosevelt's WPA program.
It's beautiful.
It replaced an old swing bridge and really a landmark here in Austin. About 10 years ago, there's a big federal grant that refurbished it and restored it. Just downstream from that's an old railroad crossing they turned into a pedestrian bridge about the same time. So it's really restoring the history of that stretch of the river.
All right, here we are on the Cedar River. It is an absolutely beautiful summer day. We have a family with us, which is fun because you know what? The outdoors are not just for grown-ups. And yeah, we just passed the beautiful Roosevelt Bridge and we're gonna see what's downriver. So which park is this?
This is Markson Park. I think it was early 1940s they built the stadium. Back before the age of screen time, this is a big form of entertainment. They packed the stadium. Kent Herbeck, I think Dave Winfield, supposedly Joe Mauer had played all here. Kent Herbeck hit some legendary home run that the legend said hit some building that's no longer there. It's been taken out because it is also part of a big lake when it floods in Austin. It becomes one big basin down here. So they've kept it alive through a lot of volunteers because, again, with it so flood prone, it's taken a lot of work to maintain it and clean it up after every flood. But it's another great landmark in the community, and thankfully they did all that work. And so,
yeah, when was it built?
I think in 1940s.
1940s.
Probably a lot of foul balls in the river still. But
it's a beautiful day. We could jump in and look for some.
There you go.
Although I don't know if we could really see too deep in this water.
Right.
We'd probably all be by touch.
Well, we're put in access with the DNR a couple years ago. We teamed up with the city of Austin. They designed the walk-in access for canoes and kayaks to launch there because we have done a bunch of river cleanup starting at this point. And so there wasn't a dedicated spot. So make a clean gravel entry exit, We're hoping to add some more of those kind of accesses along the river. We're still a fairly new state water trail, only since 2011. So.
Hey, James.
Yeah?
How clean or dirty is this river?
So right now we're just, the river is on its way down. right after we had a pretty significant storm.
Uh-huh.
So right now things look a little murky, but it's just because of maybe some sediment that ran off of the land, and just in a few more days, if we don't get any more rain, things should really clear up nicely.
Is it, like, would you swim in it? Is it swimmable?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. The water's just getting warm enough to swim in finally.
Yeah.
Too.
Does it flood very often?
Long history of flooding. If you could see past the trees, a lot of the green space on both sides of the river here would be homes. So like 300 homes and businesses have been taken out since 1978.
Wow. Yeah, so what caused this to become a state water trail?
Well, we saw some other ones in our region, like the Straight River, some of our neighboring rivers, the Root, Zumbro, and knowing the rich history that we have here with the Cedar River. You know, we're one of 4 counties of Minnesota without a natural lake, so this is our water body, and our lakes are 2 mill ponds on the Cedar River in Austin, and then Eastside Lake, which is another dammed up creek. So it's a big deal to us, and also knowing the DNR, they thought highly of the Cedar River, the wooded corridor, and so with their support, we got the legislative approval for that. And it's been awesome because like last week, or about a week ago, a DNR crew floated it. They usually do a couple times a year to remove hazards for paddlers.
Okay.
And
like what are some of those hazards?
Like the strainers and sweepers, the trees, fallen trees. They're trying to remove, they don't completely remove a fallen tree because like the fish habitat and other kind of habitat along the corridor. But just to remove those kind of dangers, especially when the water's higher. That's been huge. And when we got the State Water Trail started, we also launched a local Adopt a River initiative. So teaming up with dozens of volunteers, the Conservation Corps. Well, one of the big highlights of that was over 1,100 tires taken out of the State Water Trails from the Minnesota side.
Yikes.
So
why so many tires? How?
It had built up over the years. I mean, there's some from the 1920s that we found, and you know, in paddling it, you could see there's a need for a cleanup effort, and there really wasn't any organized cleanup effort. So
how do you do that? Do you dredge the bottom of the river?
The Conservation Corps really helped with the big removal of tires. They had all the tools and were willing to, even in October, a cold day in October, they were in the water removing those things. So huge thanks to them, because that's not an easy task or one that a lot of people would want to, you know, dive into. But it's definitely been noticed. People see the difference, especially those who clean it up the same stretch year to year. They come back with less garbage. You know, obviously when it floods though, and that was a big problem for it. The need for it too, it's just all the flooding, all the stuff swept in, that's caught in the trees. So
right.
It's been great. We get people to buy in on the river and help us take care of it.
Well, the shoreline looks pretty pristine right now.
Yeah, looking pretty good.
Yeah.
Even for a flood.
Karen, you should come up with a good game that we can play.
Oh yeah, I've got some.
You got some?
Oh yeah.
All right, awesome.
Oh yeah.
What do you got?
Well, have you ever played Clams Are Great?
No.
Okay, well the version here, what's like a fish that you would find in this river?
A smallmouth bass.
A smallmouth bass. Okay, so the game is like this. Basically, we can take turns, and you just say any reason why clams are great, but we're going to say smallmouth bass, which is sort of a tongue twister. So you say, smallmouth bass are great because they live in the water. Smallmouth bass are great because they love the sky. And you just start saying reasons, and you just make it up. It doesn't have to be true.
Does anybody go?
Yeah.
So, smallmouth bass are great because they're cute.
Smallmouth bass are great because they have gold teeth.
Smallmouth bass are great because they eat food.
Smallmouth bass are great because they canoe.
Smallmouth bass are great because they're an indicator of good water quality.
Nice one.
So has your family ever canoed the Cedar before?
We have, yeah.
It's a great river, isn't it?
So great. We're really getting to experience all different sorts of the Cedar River, because I was telling them the last time we did it, we kind of had to kick ourselves out of some rocks. So this time we're really enjoying the higher water and the movement.
Yeah, this is a really nice time of year. Some of the native flowers start blooming, and
So beautiful.
you usually see a lot of wildlife around the edges of the stream.
Yeah, we just saw a family of duckies.
Cool.
And a black squirrel, I think he was.
Neat.
He
There's
was
a few
running.
around. Yep, I saw a deer back there a little ways. But
Nice.
he was
Yeah, they like to hang out near that
ran
bike
into
trail.
the trees, so we couldn't get him on video.
Oh, shoot.
I have bird questions. Do you have bird answers?
I do not have bird answers. We saw a mallard duck earlier. That was about
Oh, yeah.
the
That's a
extent
good
of
one.
my bird knowledge. I can identify the Canadian goose for you too, but
Oh, thank you.
I think you probably already got
Yeah.
that one.
We got the eagle down.
Yeah. We actually have a guy in our office though that is really, really good at identifying birds. A lot of times, what we all do is if we see a bird that we don't know, we'll take a picture of it
Oh, nice.
and then bring it in, and then he identifies it right away. But
Isn't part of knowing water knowing like the water fowl?
that's a great point. Yeah.
So, what do you do exactly?
Well, I perform and teach improvisational theater.
Are you part of a troupe or?
Yeah, so we perform around the Twin Cities. We're called Improv Parenting, and our thing is we do improv shows for all ages.
Okay.
And we also teach. So we teach kids and we teach families improv, and like especially how it applies to life. So like how it helps you be more playful and present and kind of in better relationship with each other.
Yeah, you know, I love, here, let's go kind of
Speaking of relationships.
Yeah, I know, we're very close right now. I love what you said earlier about, you know, like the key is really just being present.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be forced or anything, that you just
Totally.
basically have to be present in the moment. And talk to me a little bit more about that. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, so one of the things you learn when you first start improvising is something called yes and, which means that you basically agree with whatever your scene partner says. And in order to do that, you have to listen. Like you have to just totally give yourself up to the moment and be listening to what they're saying, watching their body language, and that is all about being present. And to me, like once I started taking improv, I was like, oh, this totally applies to my life and especially my family life, right?
Yeah.
Like as a parent, I was like, this is helping me be more present,
Right.
you know, for my kids.
So, do you, like, what if you're not a funny person? Can you do improv?
Absolutely. Yeah, I know. People think it's like stand-up comedy, but actually the humor comes from the collaboration
Okay.
and trusting your scene partners.
Okay.
And basically, weird stuff just comes out. Like if you let yourself be spontaneous
Yeah.
and support your partners,
Yeah.
things will happen. And
Okay.
you learn that. Like the more you practice it, the more you discover that in fact things just happen.
Okay.
You don't have to plan it.
So, is there a little drill we can do right now?
Is there a little drill? Yeah, for
Okay.
sure.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna play.
Let's get James in on this too.
Yeah. So this is called Yes and Story. We're gonna
Okay.
tell a story together, and all you have to do is listen to what the person before has said,
Okay.
and then you add to the story. And we're
Okay.
just gonna add one line at a time,
Okay.
and we just trust ourselves to make it up as we go.
Okay. How long does this have to be?
Let's do like 2 or 3 lines each.
Okay.
So the key though is you always want to start with yes and.
Okay.
So if I said, once upon a time, there were 3 canoes on the river. And then I'll pass it to you, Brenda. You say yes and you add to it.
Yes, and 3 sharks followed. James.
Yes, and I was very scared.
Yes, and I was scared too. So scared, in fact, that I got out my biggest paddle.
Yes, and I paddled very fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and luckily I happened to have my novel telling me how to defend against sharks with me.
Yes, and that novel, in fact, had a very specific page for river sharks. And it said,
Yes, and it said to use your paddle that has secret sharp edges to cut down all the trees along the way and throw them in the river.
ooh,
Yes, and I say that you better get a permit before you do that.
Yes, and after we applied for the permit and it came immediately by drone, we filled the entire river with logs and it made it so the sharks couldn't.
Yes, and they could not eat us. They were blocked. They had to turn around and swim upriver.
Hooray!
That's hilarious.
That was good. That was a good yes and
call,
exercise.
Good call on the permit.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Part 2 of our trip. We just stopped at a little access point along the river, had a little lunch, took a little break, had a little breather, and now we are going to depart on the final 4 miles of our 9-mile adventure. See you along the way.
Well, this is fun. This is a really cool paddle. I really enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, this is great that this is here and can be done. And
It's interesting to try to stay together but not hit each other.
When I take my kids out, and now when I take my grandkids out, what I do is I want them to become comfortable in either the kayak or the canoe. So in a canoe, I will give them a paddle, and they can sit and they can paddle any way they want, and I'll be in the back and I can control the canoe with the current. And then eventually, when they get a little older, they'll pick up on the strokes, on the stroke techniques, and they can paddle on their own.
What's the Blandings turtle?
Yeah. So the Blandings turtle is a native species in Minnesota, and it's in a little bit of trouble because it doesn't respond very well to habitat destruction and things like that. So as the years have gone by and our land uses have changed since Minnesota was settled, the Blandings turtle has just had a tougher time accommodating to that, and reasons being is that they're I believe they take up to 11 or 12 years to become sexually mature, so they have to live that long before they can even create offspring.
What do they look like?
Well, like a turtle.
Okay.
But,
fair enough.
Yeah. I wish I had a picture.
They don't look like a smallmouth bass.
Yeah, I'm not very good at describing how turtles look different from one another.
So I'm curious, of snapping turtles, the Blanding turtles, and the painted turtle's a pretty common turtle, right? So what would be the ratio of those 3 turtles to each other in this river?
I would think that painted turtles would be the most common, although they probably more prefer kind of lakes and wetlands, and same with snapping turtles as well. They need wetlands, and the Blandings turtle too. They all kind of really thrive in the floodplain areas where we have both kind of sand and also wetlands. So I think they're probably, Blandings would be the least common of the 3.
Tell me about the clams and the pearls. What's that all about?
Many years ago, people would harvest clams or native mussels, and they would find pearls and use them for buttons and things on clothing. So there was just this time where lots of people were harvesting way too many native mussels, and I think that probably took a big, the native population took a big hit at that time.
Pearl buttons on your shirt were a big thing?
Yeah. Yep,
like
on
ivory
your
tusks.
Sunday clothes, yep.
DNR, they're planning this spring to transplant some black sand mussels they've been growing in Eastside Lake, which is a tributary to Cedar River.
Yep, black sand shell.
Yep, and then transplanting them below the dam, so somewhere like in this stretch maybe, but to hopefully get those going again and improving the water quality and the ecosystem in the river.
Yeah, what do the clams do for the river?
Filter out some of the pollutants, right, James? They absorb some of the excess nutrients that are in the water.
Exactly. Wind is keeping me from turning. It's amazing that it makes that much of a difference, but it sure does.
Do you think silliness is a skill you can learn?
I think it's a skill you can like practice and you know, sort of encourage in yourself.
Yes.
And I would say, I mean, our improv.
It's kind of like a muscle. The more you use it, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of a reframing
Or if you
too.
don't use it, you lose it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think we can all take ourselves so seriously sometimes, and obviously that's important, but I also think the levity can really help keep you grounded and balance you out.
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
In all sorts of situations. Well, all I gotta say is it's pretty enjoyable hanging out on the river for a day with an improv comedian. I suggest you bring one with on all your outdoor adventures.
Woo-hoo.
So, did you guys have any smallmouth bass comments?
Why are they cute, Grace? Or do I have to say why
Are
they're
you the one who
cute?
said they're cute? Because I said they were cute too.
No, that was me.
Oh, that was you.
Why are they great? That's what I meant to say.
Because, I don't know. I don't know what that
Smallmouth
is.
bass are great because they have whiskers.
What are smallmouth bass?
It's a fish.
Fish.
Wow.
What's your favorite kind of fish?
Clownfish?
Clownfish.
Clownfish.
Obviously. They're the best.
Clownfish.
Turtles make a great pet for kids. Let's find out more about some of the turtles you may find in Minnesota from Oxbow Park and Zollman Zoo's naturalist, Clarissa Schrooten.
We have 9 different species of turtles here in the state of Minnesota. There are 3 types of map turtles, one being the false map turtle, which we have here on exhibit, one being the northern map turtle, or also known as the common map turtle, and then the last one is the Wichita map turtle. Now for more river species, a Blandings turtle would be one that's a lot more common in your rivers, but it is uncommon to be seen out in the wild. It is on the threatened species list for the state of Minnesota. The painted turtle is another turtle that we have here at Oxbow Park and Zollman Zoo. And along with that, it is one of the most common here in the state of Minnesota. They like to spend most of their time in the water because they find a lot of their food in the water. They eat aquatic vegetation, they eat aquatic beetles or insects that are in the water, worms, and then sometimes fish too. One really interesting thing about turtles is that when they pull their heads into their shell, their neck actually has to do kind of an S-curve to fit into there. I think that would be a chiropractor's nightmare, but for turtles, it's just a common day experience. I'm Clarissa Schrooten from Oxbow Park and Zollman Zoo, and I encourage everyone to get out and enjoy the outdoors.
Well, thanks for joining us today on the Cedar River. Hope you had a good time. It was certainly a lovely day to be out here. We got to hear some lovely stories from the past. We learned a little bit about turtles, about the river itself, about clams, and even got to tell some jokes along the way. So I hope you get a chance to bring your family out on the river soon. Until next time, let's go, Minnesota. Clams are great because they're hard.
Because they're hard, and then we're gonna say yes.
Clams are great because they filter our river water.
Yes.
Yes!
Clams are great because they have curly hair like Brenda and Keren.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Clams are great because they speak Japanese.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Clams are great because they love paddling down the Cedar River.
Oh, yes.
Clams are great because they also water ski.
Yeah, absolutely. Clams are great because they taste good. Oh, wait.
Yes.
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 Clams are great because they don't need life jackets.
Oh, yes.
Clams are great because they clam up.
Yes. Clams are great because they never get bitten by mosquitoes.
Oh, yes. Clams are great because they never get hit by lightning.
Yes.
Yes.
I think we got that.
I think
we got
that.
We got that.
Good
Yeah.
game.
Yep.
Good game.
Good game.
Funding for Off 90 is provided in part by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.